kept getting better and better, and then you would come back home and you would do more stuff.
Yeah.
So when did you decide, okay, I'm going to start doing put my own group together and everything, and kind of put your first album out? I mean, because you had
maybe last year, was that?
That was it?
No, I'm joking. Actually, I didn't make that decision. That decision was made for me.
Yeah.
This gentleman by the name of Kevin Beauchamp heard me sing, and he's like, you ever thought of doing a CD? And I was like, well, yeah. He was like, you should do a CD, and I was like, okay. And just such a lovely man. I've had so many wonderful angels just bless me. And so his record label signed me, and I did a CD called Classic.
What label was it?
It's called Catalyst Records.
Yeah.
And so I had Ari Brown, and I had Ernie Adams on drums. Oh my goodness gracious, this was
quite a band going already.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful. It was beautiful. So I had Tom Vaiatzis, and so that was my first CD. And then after that, he approached me again about 5 years later, and we did another CD.
So were you playing clubs and stuff too around Chicago? Were you still going to Europe and coming back and forth still and everything? So you were. That was your full-time deal, right?
That was
That's
my
what
full-time
you were doing.
job. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing, isn't it? Now when you think about it, it's like, wow.
Actually, outside of the music, there was the traveling, there was temping, being a receptionist, being a bartender, being, whatever I could do that was flexible enough so I can do my music, right?
Yeah.
Until the point to where I was able to really just do my music full time.
Now, who were some of because we talked a little bit off camera, who were some of the mentors coming up? I know you mentioned Vaughn, but Henry Johnson, I think, was another one.
Henry Johnson.
He seems to
Uncle
mentor.
Henry.
He seems to mentor a lot of vocalists, and obviously, he worked with Joe Williams, worked for Nancy Wilson forever, and everybody knows this because he was our feature interview a couple of months ago. So but it was interesting that you said that. Not shocking, but it was interesting because he seems to be able to help vocalists in a certain way where he can really help them, push them a little bit.
Well, Uncle Henry, and he is the reason, the fact that I'm able to sing today is because of Henry Johnson. Period. End of sentence.
Yeah.
And I stalked him. I saw him at Pops for Champagne. And he was playing, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And I introduced myself, and I was like, oh, Mr. Johnson, I think you're so great, and I'd really like to talk to you about, playing on my record. And he was like, okay, kid, here's my number, give me a call. And so I called him, and he didn't call me back. And I called him, and he didn't call me back. And so then I remembered him saying he was going to be recording in some studio. So I showed up at CRC, and I said, hey, Mr. Johnson, remember me? I'm Tammy McCann. He was like, where the hell did she come from? I was like, man, I'd really like for you to, help me. I really need some help. I want to do a new CD, but I really want some guidance, because we didn't have a real producer per se on the first record, and I just wanted some guidance. Yeah. And I said, if you wouldn't mind just listening to this music, I'd really appreciate it. And he was like, okay. And so
it's like stalker.
I totally was a stalker. So about a week later, he called me and he was like, hey, I listened to your record. Let's sit down and talk.
Yeah.
And it was the best. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Yeah. And he sat down and he talked to me about, just like you said, after working with Joe Williams, after working with Nancy Wilson, he really understood the voice in a really intricate way that was not from an accompanist point of view, right? But from a vocal point of view, meaning how to control and expand my voice. That's what he taught me how to do. He said, he called a big girl. Yeah. He said, you need to put big girl to the side sometimes because I'm telling you, the voice is like this. He said, you need to open your voice like a flower. it needs to bloom. You don't give everybody
Right.
everything all at once. You just give them a little bit at a time, and then you let your voice blossom. And he sat and went through these songs with me, and we chose songs together, and he wrote beautiful arrangements.
Yeah.
And we wrote a song together, as a matter of fact, on that CD, Never Let Me Go. And so I mean, and to this day, I mean, he's a real mentor,
Yeah.
and supporter and advisor, and I just love him. I love him.
He's the best. He's
He
the best.
is.
But it sounds like that's what really got your career turned into the.
That's what got me
Jazz.
vocally,
Yeah.
because it was Henry Johnson that begat me Stanley Crouch.
Ah, okay.
So it was his instruction on that record, and the way that he shared with me how to shape and use my voice. And I was gifted this amazing mentor. Her name is Elise Clairbout. Mm-hmm. And Miss Clairbout is the president of Strayhorn Songs Publishing. She's been, Chicagoan of the Year.
Right.
She's I mean, Chicago Jazz Orchestra. I mean, you name it, Miss Elise has been a part of it. And so she was the one that took me out of the mindset of, you need to go to New York. You need to really explore and be all over the United States.
So it was after that recording with Henry,
Yes.
that's when this started
Absolutely,
happening. Yeah.
absolutely. Again, Henry was the catalyst.
Sure.
That made it from something that I did to something more interesting, right? And something that I had more control over,
Yeah.
right? And so Miss Elise took me by the hand and took me to New York City and introduced me to all these wonderful people. I mean, the Nelson Riddle Foundation and Mabel Mercer Foundation,
Yeah.
and Ann Hampton Calloway. I mean, every step of the way, she just took me by the hand. And I got introduced to Stanley Crouch. And when he heard my music, that never let me go. He said, I haven't heard something like this in many, many years. And if you need me, you let me know. And I'm like,
I'm letting you know now.
yes, sir. Oh, Mr. Crouch. Oh gosh. So it's been these beautiful angels along the way that have given me encouragement.
Yep.
That have given me focus. After Mr. Freeman passed away, Vaughn passed away, I started to think about the direction that I wanted to take vocally, right?
Yeah.
I had, by then, had some interest with, I'd done small ensemble, I'd done a couple of CDs, 4 at that time, and, Miss Elise was trying to push me into big band. She was like, I really think, because my voice was,
Sure, it's
was
big enough
naturally
to go,
big.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so I wasn't really sure if that's something that I liked or was interested in. And then I met this wonderful arranger. His name is John Pollock. He's based here in Chicago. He's a big band director of this organization called Reunion Jazz Orchestra.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh my gosh. John Pollock. Every chart that I have currently it is
From
a
him.
John Pollock chart.
Wow.
Big band or lead sheet. He completely crafted my musical world to make it run seamlessly and advised me, and we taught together at the Music Institute of Chicago, and so I mean, again, each time a different angel would take my hand and guide me along the way, and through him came the work with Lawrence Hopgood,
Right.
and the
yeah.
CD.
Yeah.
Lawrence.
And then you guys did a CD together.
Yes, called Love Stories.
And that did dynamite.
Yeah, that was a
That's
really
really,
great
I think,
CD.
the one that you really started breaking out on all the coasts too, right? I mean, that's
Yeah. We got a chance to be all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really great. I mean, it's really been, and that's what I tell my students. It's been a journey, and it's not just one gig at a time, right? It's one growth, one experience, one exchange of energy, one musician.
Yeah.
You know, it's one musician at a time, right? And you have to. You're always growing. You're always learning. You know.
I think it's also because with music, you can get into the rut where you're playing same thing all the time, whatever, and you either like it or you become disgruntled and you just keep doing it anyways. And we all know both of them. So, but then somebody like you who you keep finding those opportunities because you keep pushing yourself to find those opportunities, and that keeps opening up door after door after door. And now let's talk a little bit about present day, because you have a lot of stuff going on.
I have a lot of stuff.
You have a lot of stuff going on.
It didn't seem like a lot until I wrote it all down.
But I mean, outside of the performances, you're also working with the Music Institute of Chicago.
I am artist in residence with the Music Institute of Chicago.
And you're also with the DuSable.
I have been named curator at large for American music for the DuSable Museum of African American History.
And what does that mean?
Wow. What exactly? What that means is
that sounds like a big job. That's what it sounds
man,
like.
It's just such a blessing. I'm so excited. My job is to create short-term, long-term, and permanent exhibits, programming, and historical performances that really showcase the Black diaspora of American music. And that would be blues, jazz, gospel, and hip-hop.
Wow.
And what's very lucky for us is that Chicago is hallowed ground for every single one of those genres. And so I've got several ideas that I am really excited to share with President Irmer as she's given me this opportunity to really enlarge the musical footprint at DuSable.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
What an opportunity.
Yeah,
Man,
super excited.
And you're kind of like the perfect person to do that, because you got your hand in a little bit of everything,
I feel
right?
that, yeah, and that's the thing. I'm going to be talking about classical. I'm going to be talking about one wonderful thing that we have coming up because it's going to be a 2019-20 season is Reginald Robinson is going to be doing an event talking about Scott Joplin and the Masters of Ragtime. We're going to be doing something that's going to celebrate, we'll be celebrating Mr. Art Kane and his seminal work, A Great Day in Harlem. His son, Jonathan, has created a coffee table book which talks about that day, shares anecdotes, never before seen photos, and there's a foreword written by Quincy Jones and
Benny Golson, right?
Benny Golson, that's right.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be bringing that to the museum. We're going to be celebrating Sid Ordower in the Jubilee Showcase. Sid Ordower, my goodness gracious, his wonderful television show aired on Channel 7 from 1958 to 1984, and there was the Staple Singers, Albertina Walker, the Hopkins family. I mean, you name it, everybody in gospel. And so we're going to be creating an exhibit that has the photography, the videography, and his son did a PBS special. So we're going to have the PBS special shown, and what we're going to do is really, really light up the South Side of Chicago with all the music that belongs to our culture.
That's awesome.
And so it's
well,
super
when you
exciting.
get to that point, we got to do another show.
Okay.
All about that.
You promised. You got him on video. He said it.
Well, let's talk real briefly before we wrap this up. You've got a band camp that you are launching next summer too in 2020.
Yes.
That sounds unbelievable. Now, tell me about it, because you were talking off camera about it. But it's in Nebraska.
Yes, it's in Brownville, Nebraska, right on the beautiful Missouri River. It's an idyllic location. It's a 7-day camp, and you can come and stay for the week. You can commute, or you can just audit. We're going to bring together music, jazz music lovers, students, teachers from urban and rural settings.
Okay.
And that's really the work that I feel like the work of my life right now is creating pathways and spaces for people to connect using this music that we love, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes it seems like we've forgotten, but I don't think we have.
No.
I think we have a muscle memory of that we know how to humanize each other, you know? And the work that I'm doing right now, the work that's important to me right now, really is focused on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I talk about the band.
Oh my gosh. So we got a couple of folks.
Just a couple of people.
Just a
people
couple of
might
folks. We found them
know.
standing around.
They're not busy at all.
They're not busy at all. So we have John Clayton as our artist in residence. We have Jeff Hamilton as our drum master. We have Tamir Hindelman as our piano master. John Hamer as our bass master.
Yeah.
And Miss Dee Daniels is our vocal master.
Wow.
And so all of them are together. The actual camp is called Voice and the Anatomy of the Rhythm section. So how do all of these people, all of these components communicate? So how do you communicate as a rhythm section? How do you as the vocalist communicate with the band? You know, and then individually, how do you soar, you know, as an individual, as a soloist, right? And that's what it's about.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You are like, and then you're still playing gigs. And you
Yes.
still have stuff happening.
Yes.
And I mean, you know, so you do you have anything coming up in the near future, May, June, July, that we should talk about? Or should we just have people check out your website? Because I know you've got things that are going to pop up, but I don't know if you can announce them yet. So
May is going to be interesting because I'm not going to actually be here. I'm going to be in Israel doing a tribute to Mahalia Jackson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm doing a tour. I'm touring Israel with a Mahalia Jackson tribute show that happens to be big band.
Wow.
So that's super
That's unbelievable.
exciting. Yeah,
Man.
that's really, really exciting. And I'm in the process of writing a musical. That's why Mahalia is so much. I've been doing a tribute of Mahalia Jackson for over the last 15 years, but I've never done it in the United States, only in Europe. And 2017, I took my jazz rhythm section over to Europe to do a tour. For the first time. Mm-hmm. And the music really transformed. The way that it felt performing it was different. So I created a new show, and it's called Mahalia Jazz. And it's not just about her individual, you know, songs that she made famous, you know, Precious Lord and this and that. It's about her experiences. So songs that reflect her life experiences, songs that reflect her participation in the civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. So it's really exciting. Wow. And as I started to explore and learn more about her over the years, I learned about this wonderful, one-of-a-kind friendship that she shared with Studs Terkel. And I'm writing a musical about that relationship.
Wow.
And it's called Mahalia and Studs, The Revolutionary Aspects of Love.
That's unbelievable.
People have no idea how close they were, how their relationship was equal. You know, you would assume because of the time period that him being a white man, that his role in the relationship was stronger, or that he assisted her more, but that just wasn't the case. One of his seminal works, his interview with Martin Luther King, was done in her living room. When people were having the McCarthy scare and they were talking about really persecuting Jewish people and Jewish journalists and artists, Mahalia had a show and Studs was a writer on the show, and they were going to fire him. And she was like, "Oh no, not my Studs," you know. But just think of that.
But nobody knows that.
Nobody knows that. But just think of this agency. Now here's a woman in the 50s, 60s. The agency that she has is still a gift from white society. Mm-hmm. But to be so stern that she was going to protect him at all costs, right?
Yeah.
This is my friend, and you're not going to do anything, not on my watch.
Right.
You know, people don't know. And that's what I say. When I say we've done this already, we know our humanity. We know that we love each other. It's in our muscle memory. Yeah. We just need to be reminded. And I think the story of Studs and Mahalia can remind us of our humanity, you know?
Well, I'm glad you're doing that, because, I mean, who would know about this stuff? It's incredible.
It's really,
I mean, I don't think you have any time left. You have any time left?
You'd have to ask my husband. As of right now, somebody asked me, "So, when are you doing your next record?" I was like, "I can't tell you before I tell my husband. I gotta tell him first."
Well, I'm glad we finally got together here, and I'm glad we put this whole thing together. This is fascinating, and
Thank
I mean,
you.
all the incredible stuff you've done, but that you have coming up, and it's just like what we said a little bit earlier. It's like you keep opening doors, keep finding different things, and I guarantee you, by doing the band camp, by doing the DuSable, by doing the Music Institute, and now this play, you're going to have 47 more doors opening up, so you better get ready, I'm sure, you know?
I tell you, I'm so grateful, Mike, for you taking the time out to chat with me.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you, every time, it's just about people dreaming a bigger dream for me than I could possibly dream for myself, and just giving me the opportunity to share what I love to do, and that's just sing.
That's unbelievable. That's awesome. Well, that's a great way to wrap this up. Of course, if you want more information, they should check out TammyMcCann.com.
.com.
So you
Yes.
can find out when you come back from Israel and everything else, and then you're going to be posting shows and posting music and all that other good stuff on that
Yes,
website.
as soon as I learn how to tweet and Instagram me, and I've got all these wonderful young people around me that are going to teach me how to do all this.
That's
great
right. Yeah. Well, they'll take care of it for you. All right. So thanks so much, Tammy.
Thank
It was a
you.
pleasure, and thank you for watching. And I'm so happy to be able to sit down here with Tammy here for our feature interview for May 2019. Of course, get all the information at ChicagoJazzMagazine.com. And until next month, hopefully we'll see you somewhere out on the scene.
Long as I can be with you, it's a lovely day. Long as I can be with you, it's so long.